I decided to go ahead and record the video today because it's really not that long. So I just had to move because my rock was no longer shaded and I was getting hot. So the Monday after the supermoon, I was 38 weeks and 5 days pregnant. Or no, I'm sorry. 39 weeks and 5 days pregnant. I was just 2 days away from my due date. My due date was July 16th, and I woke up the Monday of July 14th after I had just changed my Facebook picture to keep calm, I'm still pregnant. I woke up, I was annoyed because I wasn't like waking up to my water breaking. So went to the bathroom and went pee, and whenever I wiped, I was like, oh, something's happening. Might be having a baby soon. So I was like, okay, that's something. So I went and laid down, got a rest. Yeah, right. I looked at my clock, 7:45, which was around the same time that I went into labor the first time as well. So that's funny. It was around the same time. I was scrolling through Facebook because I wasn't gonna fall back asleep at that point, let's be honest. Dustin and Halen were still asleep, so I was just scrolling. 7:50, I have a contraction. Oh, okay, that was a contraction. That wasn't a prodromal contraction either. That was a contraction. So I pop up, I jump out of bed immediately, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start packing. I don't know why I was like, I'm gonna do the dishes. That's what I'm gonna do. And so I was like, getting a dish out of the dishwasher, putting it up, squatting down, getting a dish out of the dishwasher, putting it up, squatting down. I was texting some people. I was texting my people that came to my baby shower who were my like prayer group for whenever. I'm like, okay guys, I think something's happening. I'm having contractions. I'll keep you posted. I'm pretty sure that was the last text I sent too. I think I texted a couple people. My boss that I wasn't coming into work. I texted my mother-in-law. I said, I'm pretty sure something's happening today. Will you be able to come get Halen soon? And she said, yeah. And I let Halen and Dustin sleep. And my contractions were coming about every 5 minutes. I was timing them on an app on my phone, and they were pretty consistent and pretty contraction-y. It felt very, very good to squat through my contractions, to just get into a deep squat as low as I could through the whole contraction, and then come back up. And it was great. It felt wonderful. So, I got Halen up, or he woke up or something. I made him some toast, took a little picture with him, which I wish I had looked at the picture before because it's very blurry, and I wish I had a better picture of just me and my first baby for the last time of being an only child. It's funny that it's blurry because it's like how I was seeing that day anyways, because everything was just a blur. So I got Halen out the door, or I woke Dustin up first, told him to say bye to Halen because he was leaving. I said, your mom, I woke him up, I said, we're having a baby today. And he said, how do you know? And I was like, because we're having a baby today. Like, I know, I'm pretty sure I would know. Anyways, it was funny. So he said bye to Halen. He got up, got in the shower after Halen left. And I'm like getting, like chargers, toothbrush, stuff, the last minute things that we needed in the bag. Getting my big old ball into the car, stuff like that. I was still squatting through my contractions in the bathroom as I was talking to Dustin, telling him how my morning went. And, I actually had an appointment, a midwife appointment on every Monday. When my appointments were, and I had an appointment that day as my 40-week appointment. And I was like, hey, so I'm not gonna be showing up today. I'm having a baby, which was hilarious because at my 4 weekly appointments, I always made my appointments as early in the morning as I could get just because I'm a very impatient person. Monday morning, first thing, I want my week to start with knowing how my baby is. So those last 4 weeks, they would get me checked in and be like, hey, so she just had to go run over and do a birth real quick. She'll be here as soon as possible. I'm like, it's okay. Like, I understand. You know, they're more important. I'm still pregnant, obviously. You know, I want to be that priority whenever it's my turn, so I understand. So, anyways, before we left to go to the hospital, I called and I was like, hey, I'm not going to come to my appointment today because I'm pretty sure I'm having a baby. So that's cool. And they were like, okay, we'll see you later. You know, let us know whenever you get here. And we're like, okay. So, it was about, by the time Dustin got up, I mean, we weren't rushing. We wanted to get there in time to get antibiotics, but like, I could still walk. I was feeling very good in between contractions. So, I had labored about 3 hours by myself, you know, just doing stuff around the house. No big deal. I was managing perfectly. And so, we go get in the car around, what did I put, 11:30, no, it was around 11 whenever we left. We live about 35 minutes from the hospital, or we lived about 35 minutes from the hospital. So we stopped and got Dustin some lunch on the way there. I wasn't hungry. I had ate a little bit that morning just to put something on my stomach. But, so it was really funny being in the drive-thru with my big old pregnant belly and my nightgown on with my knees up on the dash. It was hilarious. They're like, yeah, we're trying to go to the hospital. Can you speed it up? No, I'm just kidding. It wasn't like a rush. It was just like, okay, you know, we're going to the hospital, have a baby. And so we get there around 11:30, 11:45, and I'm like, okay, we're in labor, we're having a baby. Get all of our stuff brought in. They're like, okay, well, we'll monitor you and see if you're really in labor. And like, I get it, like some people come too early, but I was like, well, you know, I do have the group B, so I wanted to make sure I got here in time to get the antibiotics, you know, all of that great stuff. And they're like, okay, well, we'll see. So they check me, and I am still 2 centimeters dilated. Womp womp. I was like, man. And she was like, what? You're 80% effaced. So I was like, okay, that's okay. From squatting, I guess. And you have a bulging bag. I was like, okay, cool. I never had my water break on its own, so maybe it'll break on its own. I was like, all right, let's do this. Like I said, I was feeling really good. And Dustin, we were texting people at that point, my mom, his mom, you know, just letting people know, friends, stuff like that, letting them know what's going on. And I was trying to squat by the bed, and then it really wasn't feeling that good anymore to squat. I was like, ugh, what's going on, you know? I'm like, man. And so at that point, it was very strange. It only felt good to sit straight up, like feet out and legs out in front of me, straight up, as tall as I could, belly just like resting on my legs on the end of my bed. And I just sat there. I was like, okay, and they were monitoring the baby, my contractions, and her heart rate and stuff like that. And I just kind of was talking to her. I was hugging my belly, and I was like, all right, water, break, so they don't send me home, because I went through this last time. Break, water, dilate, come down. I was talking to my baby, talking to my belly, and I was like, water, just break so that we know it's actually labor. And all of a sudden I hear a big kick or something on the monitor. It was very loud. It was like a big poof, you know, you hear. And then water just started going everywhere. And I was like, and Dustin said, what was that? I was like, my water just broke. And he was like, how do you know? I was like, go get the nurse. My water just broke. And he was like, oh. And then he saw it everywhere, because he wasn't paying attention right then. He was, I think he was texting my mom or something. So it was like, that was cool. My water broke on its own. That was a cool feeling. And the fact that it was so, I don't know if it was the bag breaking that I actually heard, like the rupture, because it was on so loud of a volume, or if it was a big kick simultaneously that caused I don't know. It was just a really cool thing to like feel it and hear it so amplified. It was just a really cool moment. And I'm like, all right, here we go. We are having a baby. And I was like, I'm sorry about the mess. And they're like, no, it's fine. Whenever the nurse came in. Sorry. Living between two highways, so it might be loud sometimes. So anyways, she comes in and she was like, okay, now just know that your contractions probably are going to feel much stronger. I was like, yeah, shit's about to get real, huh? She was like, yeah. So, they're like, we do need to check you again. And it'll only been like 20 minutes. Or no, like an hour and 20 minutes, I think. Yeah, 12:36 is whenever my water broke. So they're like, we do need to check you again to make sure the cord isn't prolapsed, to make sure she's still getting oxygen and all that. I was like, okay. And they're like, oh yeah, we need to also start an IV. So like, I don't know why, but they were like checking me and trying to start an IV at the same time. Like one nurse was trying to, I don't know. That was weird. So, oh yeah, and they had called Kim at that point, said, hey, water broke. You might want to get here soon. Because she hadn't even had a chance to check on me yet. Because it wasn't like, you know, I was there for a short amount of time. It wasn't like active labor yet. I was only 2 centimeters. Anyways, so cord wasn't prolapsed, but I was already 4 centimeters at that point. And I was like, okay, so girls are trying to get my IV in my arm so we can get the IV and the antibiotics started. And it's like, she's hurting me real bad. And so she tried twice in this hand, and I think she had to tap out because of the 2 misses. And then she went to go get someone else, and I'm like trying to move, and I got all these monitors on me, and I got water dripping from my legs, and all this stuff. And Dustin's just trying to update people, you know, stuff is happening before he's even getting texts out to everybody. So he's like, hey, we just got here, we're 2 centimeters, you know, going slow. And then 5 seconds later, it's like, hey, water broke, all of that. And so then another nurse came in to actually get the IV in, and she got it in fine, got the antibiotics started. And I was like, this is happening really fast. And she was like, what? And she was like, yeah, your water broke, you know. I was like, no, like I'm feeling pressure, I'm feeling pushy, and this is happening fast. And that's all I kept saying, this is fast. And she was like, yeah, like, you know, like, yeah, baby's coming, you know. So she's like, well, I mean, I can check you again. And I was like, yeah, please. So she checked me again, and it had been like 5 minutes since my last check, and I was already 6 centimeters dilated again, at that point. So she was like, yeah, okay. And they're like, yeah, you need to call Kim. And so they call her to get over, you know, finish up her last appointment or whatever, and come over to labor and delivery. And as soon as she got done checking me, I flipped over. I had this bed, like, sat up like a chair, and I was on my knees, facing the back of the bed with my arms wrapped around the bed, like on my knees. That's what felt good. And I was just like sinking into the bed. And so I just sat there. And I don't think that they could get a real good read on the heart rate, and so they were like annoyed with me because of that. But I was like, I don't care, like, this is what I have to do. This is what's happening. So poor Dustin, I asked him to get me a cold rag for the back of my neck. I may have not said for the back of my neck. I don't know. But he went and got me a cold rag for the back of my neck, and then he put one on my lower back, and I did not like that. And I slung it across the room in his general direction, and may have yelled something at him. I don't, that was fuzzy. I don't remember that. But, yeah. And so I'm feeling like pain, you know, pressure. I'm sitting there. That was all I could do, was just hug that bed, you know, on my knees. And so Dustin went out into the hall to call my mom and was like, things are happening fast. Like, things are happening. And she can hear me on the phone from the hall yelling because there was some stuff happening. It was just a lot of pressure. Like, it was on, like, the inside of, like, my hip bones. You know, it was like the inside of my hip bones was what was hurting the most. Just the pressure, felt like a brick was in my pelvis, and proved to be true. Also, it was just like there is no other word to describe the type of sound that I was making besides primal. Very deep, moaning, primal noises was the only, and very loud. Like, it's just something that had to happen for me whenever that was happening. It just happened. I didn't control it. I wasn't yelling because I was like, oh my gosh, this is so painful. It was just, that was the noise that my body had to make it through that pain. And it wasn't even so much pain, just pressure and intense and fast, and that made it a little scary. Kind of very scary. Not a little scary. It was happening very fast. It was like by the time something happened, I couldn't wrap my head around it fast enough before something else started happening. So like I said, like whenever I was feeling those sounds come out of me, I felt my body like grunting and pushing. And that was whenever, I don't think a nurse left us at that point whenever she saw how I was acting, because I don't remember Dustin and I being alone after that point. Because then they called Kim, and I was like, I'm pushing, and she was like, don't push. I was like, no, like, you don't understand, I'm pushing. Like, it's me, but it's not me. I'm pushing. And she's like, well, I need to check you again to see, you know, make sure you're fully dilated before you start pushing, or you're going to make yourself swell, and that's going to be bad. And I was like, yeah, don't want to do that. I'm just telling you I'm pushing. Just so you know. So she's like, can you get on your back? I was like, no. I'm still in this, you know, on my knees position. She goes, well, I mean, I can check you from here, but it's probably going to hurt really bad. I was like, just get it over with. And so she did. And she was like, all right, you're 9.5. So if you feel like you need to push, whenever you push, you can push. And I was like, okay. And I was like, where's Kim? And she was like, she's on her way. I was like, okay. And so by the time I started really pushing for the first time, I felt Kim touch my back. And she said, I'm here. Do what you need when you need to. I was like, okay. So I started pushing very hard. And I felt the baby drop. And at that point, I started feeling burning. The ring of fire is a very, very real thing. And that cervix, that perineum stretching is very intense. Not because it's not supposed to, but because it's not used to it. So that scared me, because I didn't realize how intense it would be. I had an epidural my first time. I didn't feel that my first time. So I felt that pain and I got scared. I held my breath. I felt my body suck her back up. And I was like, and I literally crawled like up the bed away from Kim, who was trying to help stretch my perineum so that I could get her out. And she goes, honey, your baby is very big. I'm gonna have to stretch you to help you so that you don't tear, and it's gonna hurt. And I was like, yeah, it hurts really bad. And like my voice was cracking. And she goes, it's okay. It's going to a little bit, but I'm gonna stretch and help you. I was like, okay. And I wasn't pushing at that point because I wasn't having a contraction. So it was like a rest period in between those contractions. And I remember like doula-ing myself and saying, yeah, it hurts. But the harder you push, the quicker you get her out, and then it's over. So just do it. Just push past the pain, because you're the only one that can get you past it. So I was like, all right, let's do this. Next contraction, I pushed as hard as I could. And it was hard. It was very hard. And so her head came down, I don't remember how many pushes until her head was fully out, but whenever she did get her head out, Kim said, I need you to stop. I need you to take your left leg and get off your knee and up on your foot like you're about to take off running. So I was on my right knee with my arms to the back of the bed, and my left foot was up like I was a track runner about to take off running to make my hips wider. I didn't know it at the time. She didn't make it seem like it was an emergency. I was just like, okay, I need to make more space. And yeah, I needed to make more space so that she could slip the cord from around her neck. Harley had her cord wrapped. She got it unslipped. It was great. All right, you can start pushing again. Okay, so I start pushing to get her shoulders out. And she was like, okay, stop. Okay. So I may have pushed a couple times. I don't remember how many or how many contractions we pushed with or how it seemed very, very fast for me, but it could have been, you know, over the span of 10 minutes or 20 minutes or however long. So at that point she goes, I need you to flip to your back and pull your left leg up to your chin. Okay. Well, it was more like to my side. So I went from my running stance, flipped like this, and was like half on my like right side and pulled my knee up to my chin. And she said, push as hard as you can. And so I did. And it was because her shoulder was almost stuck. She almost had shoulder dystocia. But because of the quick little maneuver, I was able to make my hips a little wider to be able to get her shoulders out. And so I pushed her out and then pushed her hips out as well. And as soon as she came out, she pooped everywhere and peed everywhere. So that was, poor thing, I like squeezed it out of her. And she was giant. She was huge. I was like, oh my gosh. She was a little blue whenever she first came out, probably from the cord. So we were like, you know, rubbing on her real good. Put her up on my chest, rubbing on her real good to get her to start squawking at me. Did some little massages and stuff like that, and then she started screaming, and then she started pinking up and all of that great stuff. Dustin said that he held his breath the whole time until she like really started screaming, and I can see that, and I was just like, oh, you know, baby, like, come on, you know. I just wanted to hear that little voice, you know, and so it was great, and she got to lay on my chest for a really long time. We got to delay her cord clamping for a long time, and I cut her cord. Dustin cut Haylen's, so I cut Harley's, and that was really cool because I didn't get to do that the first time. And then we weighed her, and she was 9 pounds, 10 ounces. She was 21 inches long, and she had a head circumference of 15.5 inches, shoulder circumference of 15.5 inches, and a hip circumference of 15.5 inches. She was a big girl, and it was hard work getting her out. And so, yeah. So it was great. I got up and walked like 10 minutes after delivery to go pee, and then not even an hour after, I walked to my recovery room. And it was just so great. Like, I had such an adrenaline rush and an adrenaline high after I birthed her. I felt like I could take on the world at that point, even though I had just pushed a huge baby out. Like, I didn't feel groggy like I did before. You know, I had taken 2 different rounds of narcotics and an epidural, and I felt like I was in a fog after. And I mean, it was 2 o'clock in the morning too, and I had been laboring for 19 hours, but I don't know, just the stark difference of the medicated fog that I felt after my first delivery, and the clearness and the sky high level that I was on after I had her is just so immensely different. And I knew that I never wanted to, you know, birth that way again. And it was just so different, and my recovery was much better. I also had my placenta encapsulated, where the organ has all those hormones and all of, those nutrients from what it gave to the baby and what's in your body for almost 10 months. And just going cold turkey off of that can throw your body into shock. And I battled postpartum depression and anxiety after my first time, and so I was like, I need all the help I can get. Like, if I can wean myself off of these hormones rather than the abrupt change, I would much rather do that. And I know it sounds weird, and I know it sounds gross, but it's just a pill, So I was like, whatever. And so I did that, and it really did save me from a more intense anxiety like I had the first time. I feel like I was able to enjoy her as a baby more, and our relationship. I wasn't so worried about everything like I was with my first. And maybe that's just the new mom thing too. I'd already had all that worry, so I was already worrying enough, but who knows. But it also did help my recovery. I had less postpartum bleeding. I had less postpartum pain. I had more milk. I had an oversupply actually. I was able to donate to another baby and fully support my baby and another baby for almost 4 months. And that was amazing and such an honor to do. And I may have not been able to do that without having encapsulated my placenta. And I will always recommend that to everybody, because the shock that our body goes through after pregnancy is so intense, and then the cultural shock that that our minds go through, and that our spirits go through, and the isolation that we go through. We need all the help we can get, and that's my little boost for. I know some people if you have questions. Anyways, like I said, I did have an oversupply of milk, but Harley also did have a tongue tie and a lip tie that was causing some issues for a while. It was a little bit painful whenever she latched, but my pain wasn't the most concern. But it was really funny. In order to get her evaluated, I had to say that my pain was more rather than her symptoms. So I had to say that I had horrible pain in order for them to take me more seriously. But in reality, she was suffering more. She was having a lot of spit up because she was clicking while she was nursing. She couldn't get a good suction, so she would slip off the nipple and click and get a lot of air and have acid reflux and gas and spit up and bubbles. Like, I could hear her belly rumbling whenever she would nurse, but they kind of just brushed that off. But whenever I said my nipples were hurting and it caused me a lot of pain to nurse, and I wanted to get her tongue tie checked out, we had a referral within a week. So she was 8 weeks old whenever we got her tongue tie clipped, and then she nursed immediately after that, and it was fine. And she never suffered in weight because she ate all the time. But she was a much happier baby afterwards because she wasn't so gassy, and she could sleep better too because she wasn't getting all that air in her belly. So the differences are huge. Like, it's not only do I have different genders, not only do I have different sizes of babies, not only do I have different pregnancies where I go from no risk at all and a medicated birth to a little bit of a risk during a pregnancy with, my body going crazy, to having a completely unmedicated, perfect, awesome, fast birth. It was completely opposite for me. And that is another thing that we do have to remember whenever we have subsequent pregnancies, is that just because everything went this way during the first pregnancy doesn't mean it's going to happen the same way. And even with breastfeeding, just because it went this way with breastfeeding doesn't mean it's going to go that way next time. Just because you lost your supply at 2 weeks doesn't mean that it's going to happen this time. Thank you for listening to my second birth story. My labor from start to finish was about a little over 6 hours, which is just short of the cutoff time to be considered a precipitous or fast birth. I covered topics like spontaneous rupture of membranes, a pain relieving drug free birth, no epidural, vaginal delivery on hands and knees, freedom of positions. If you have any questions about any of those things that I talked about, please let me know. Or if you have questions about other things that I didn't talk about, let me know as well. And I would love it if you share this story. Thank you.